Dream big, plan smart, build wealth. This is the TFS podcast, where money talk gets real and financial freedom is more than just a goal. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the TFS Wealth Cast. And today we have a very interesting topic. We're talking about residential properties versus commercial properties for all you property investors. Joining us today is one of our finance brokers, Nathan Ruvinski, and he specializes in commercial loans.
That's right, I do. I'm happy to be here. How you doing, Vishi?
Hey, not too bad, Nathan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Let's get into it.
Man, has anyone ever told you the way you say how you doing reminds me of Joey from Friends? Have you watched Friends?
No, I haven't.
Oh wow, he hasn't watched Friends.
Well, I have watched some of it, but I'm always more of a Seinfeld fan.
Hey, from today onwards, we only work Friends, man. If you haven't watched Friends, all right, guys. Let's dive straight into it, right? So, Nathan, when it comes to property investing, everyone's always talking about residential properties, but you say that commercial property might actually beat residential in some cases.
That's right. Yep.
I gotta know, man. What's the deal? We gotta dive into this today.
Okay. All right. Well, look, listen. I think most Aussies think that kind of property investing, it means like a house or a unit, something safe, kind of familiar. Everyone's doing it, right? But the thing is, safe doesn't always make you money. Commercial property, that's a different animal. Higher yields, longer leases, tenants paying their own bills. I think that's real cash flow while you sleep.
So you're telling me that it's not just capital growth, but you get more bang for your buck?
Yeah, that's right. We're talking facts here, not fairy tales, all right? Buckle up, Vishi. We're going to go in for this one.
All right. I mean, hey, money talks, man. So,
That's right.
all right. So let's jump straight into it. Give me some contrast, Nathan. Residential versus commercial. What's the story here?
Yeah, well, as I said, residential, it's kind of the default. You buy it, rent it out. So you tell yourself it's fine because property always goes up, right? Negative gearing, it kind of becomes part of your life. I guess paying today, reward maybe later. But, who's paying all the bills in the meantime? It's you, right?
So you're saying a lot of people are just feeding their properties every month?
Yeah, every month. Cash goes out and hope goes in.
Let's talk about rental yield, since that's what most investors are interested in, right? So hit me with the numbers, Nathan.
All right.
How much of a difference are we talking here when it comes to residential property versus commercial property?
Residential, in general, yields around 3 to 5%. Commercial is 6 to 12%. And that rent is actually hitting your bank account, right? Not just covering costs.
Hold up. Repeat that. Did you just say 6 to 12%?
Yeah, and it's the difference is huge, right? Especially when you're looking at cash flow.
Difference is huge. That's almost double.
Yeah.
What a residential property is gonna get you.
Yeah. That's why commercial, it can be a lot more lucrative.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about lease terms, because usually residential properties. My property, the minimum rental term was 6 months. They wanted us to sign for. When it comes to commercial property, what's the minimum?
Well, look, to be honest, from what we've seen in the market, generally residential leases, you see them closer to 12 months on average, 6 to 12 months. But with commercial, you're looking a lot higher. We're talking 3 to 10 years or more. Generally around the 10-year, 5 to 10-year mark. That's income, looking forward that you can actually plan your financial future around.
Yeah, you find a tenant and sign them up for 3 years, and then you don't have to worry about finding a new tenant for 3 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And in most cases, these tenants will most likely extend as well, right? After 3 years.
Yeah, that usually does happen, especially if the business is doing well. They're going to want to extend that as long as they can.
Damn. So that's. So to put that into perspective, that's some predictability you can't get with residential.
Yeah,
properties.
Exactly. And based off that, you can kind of plan to expand and grow your portfolio as well.
What about tenant responsibilities when it comes to commercial property? Because we all know in residential properties, most of the time the landlord is responsible for upkeep and whatever damages that need repair. What is it the same in commercial property?
So, look, generally what you find in commercial properties, the rates, insurance, maintenance is actually often on the tenant. And that's net of the leases, right? With residential, you're usually paying it all. So that's why your commercial net cash flow is stronger in general.
Sounds like so wait, I mean, so the property is basically feeding the owner instead of the other way around, where it's actually like residential properties most of the time it's sucking money out of
Exactly,
the
exactly. And look, that's the magic of a good commercial lease. If you set it up correctly, it's gonna be feeding you quite well.
Okay, so now that the way we've spoken about commercial property investing, I feel like we painted a fairy tale to our listeners. So Nathan, give me an example, man, because you've got so many clients you deal with when it comes to commercial,
Yep.
when it comes to commercial properties and commercial loans, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So, give us an example. Paint a picture. Give us a real life example.
all right. Look, I had this client. He was a good guy, hardworking, did everything right.
It doesn't matter if he's a good guy or bad guy. We just want the story, man.
listen, I'm getting there.
Okay,
Let me tell
Take
you
your
about
time,
it, right?
sir.
I got time, all right? I'm talking. He bought a residential investment, then he bought another one, and they were both negatively geared. Then we kind of talked on the phone, every month it was essentially the same conversation, he said, mate, it's fine, property always goes up. But here's the thing, every month the bank got paid first, then the tenant, then the agent, then the council, then the insurance company. And at the end of it all, my guy was left holding the bill. He just kept telling himself this story of the capital growth 10 years from now. Fast forward a couple of rate rises, and suddenly the vibe changes, right? He's stressed. He's checking his offset like it owes him money. He's not investing anymore. The guy is just surviving at this point. And then, almost by accident, he went off. He bought a small commercial property. Listen, it was nothing sexy, no marble bench tops, just a tenant running a business. Paying rent like clockwork, though, and I think something wild started to happen. The tenant pays the rates, the insurance, the maintenance, the rent goes up every year, and all of a sudden, for the first time in his investing life, the property isn't asking him for money, right? It's sending him money. So he actually calls me one day and he says, "Listen, Nathan, this feels illegal." I said it wasn't illegal. It's just a commercial property, man.
Man, when I asked you to tell us a real life example, you gave us a real life fairy tale. Wow, okay. Seriously?
Yeah, that stuff does happen, especially in the commercial space. A lot of clients do end up in situations where they've been burnt in the residential investment space, and when it comes to commercial property, they can start to make back some of that money they've lost, so to speak.
Man, that hits hard. So, commercial property, investing in commercial property literally flipped the whole vibe for your client.
Yeah.
From struggling to thriving.
Yeah, and it's not magic either. It's just the structure of commercial leases. Otherwise.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
From struggling to thriving, it's not magic. It's the structure of commercial leases. Yeah, maybe that should be a topic. Maybe that should be the topic for this episode.
Yeah, you can change
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There we go. We got a title of the podcast right there. Yeah.
All right, Nathan. Enough fairy tales. Let's get to the facts.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do people invest in commercial property for capital growth or for rental income?
Well, look, residential it grows on hope, population, scarcity, market sentiment. Commercial grows on income. Leases, tenants, rent increases. It's kind of different engines. One is kind of more emotional, one is mathematical, right?
Okay, got it. So commercial is like the reliable engine, residential is like the dream engine. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. It's good to actually have a bit of both there. You can't really have one without the other in a successful portfolio.
Yeah, because in terms of engines, then commercial is more like a Toyota engine, and then residential is like a BMW, like a luxury German engine.
Yeah. You can look at it like that. Maybe from a car perspective, sure.
Do you like cars, Nathan?
Listen, I'm not a car guy, but I know you are, so it's a much exactly. I'm sure it's an apt comparison there. It makes sense.
All right. So, when it comes to investing, right, there's always risk involved.
Mm.
So, coming back to commercial property, let's talk risk and vacancy because we know residential property, there are enough and more people looking to rent properties. But when it comes to commercial property,
Yeah.
what's the rental market looking like? What's the demand looking like?
Yeah.
Is there demand?
So look, realistically, there is obviously a vacancy risk, right? Commercial properties can sit empty for months if the tenant does leave. Also, obviously, external factors, economic cycles, maybe things like COVID. If that ever happens again, God forbid, but if
I can't do COVID again.
Yeah.
It took 4 years of my life.
exactly. Listen, but it hit businesses hard, and residential does fill faster, but the cash flow is weaker.
Okay, makes sense. So basically, what you're saying is, with commercial property, you're taking a bigger risk, but the reward is bigger as well.
That's right. And it is a trade-off. But if you want to reap the rewards,
Yeah.
you got to take that risk.
Like my grandmama always said, man, if you don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I'm joking. My grandmother didn't say that. 50 Cent said it. All right, Nathan. Let's talk about your forte.
Mm.
Financing these commercial properties. Right? So, when it comes to residential loans, we know the fundamentals that go into residential loans, but I'm
Yep.
pretty sure that commercial loans are a lot trickier.
Yes. So look, you're looking into bigger deposits, generally stricter lending terms. Residential is an easier product. Lower deposits, simpler approvals. That's why a lot of beginners often kind of start with residential. But once you've started to build up that residential portfolio, it starts to become a lot more attractive. You can even draw out equity to purchase into commercial properties. So it starts to become a lot more of a sensible decision to move on to the next level, which is the commercial properties.
So basically, you're saying to anyone who's just getting into the commercial real estate investment space, start easy and then scale slowly
Yeah,
with the right advice.
exactly. And it's so important to get the right advice as well. That's why a lot of my clients come to me because they have maybe multiple investment properties, but they need to know, if they can get into the commercial market and what the next steps will be. So I kind of advise them on that, and that way they can start to build up their commercial portfolio.
Yeah. Well, most of your clients come to you not just because of the knowledge, but also because you're a pretty chill guy, man.
Well, listen, I try to be, right?
Hey, why you blushing, bro? All right. So, so basically, we're saying people need to have a bit of diversity in their property portfolios.
That's right. Yeah.
You have to put some eggs in the residential basket, and if you've got enough eggs lying around, put some in the commercial basket as well. So have some diversity. Invest in some residential property. Invest in some commercial property.
Exactly. Look, residential, it gives you the demand stability that you might need. With commercial, it gives you the income and structure. So together, they kind of build more of a strong, balanced portfolio where one sort of works off the other, with the commercial being the real money maker for you if you do it right.
So end of the day, it all comes down to the right strategy.
That's right. It's very important with commercial properties as well.
All right, Nathan. So before we close, what's the bottom line?
Well, look, I think a good way to look at
All
it.
right, let's do it like this. If I was to tell you, when it comes to residential property and commercial property, take the human anatomy, right? Which organ would be residential property and which organs would be commercial property?
Okay. Maybe residential. I think the residential would be the heart, right? It's vital, and people love it, they adore it. Commercial property is more like the head and the muscle, right? So you kind of need to use both wisely, because cash flow does beat hope every time, right? So when it comes to commercial properties, it is going to be more important to generate wealth long term. So it's definitely more of the head and muscle, I'd say.
Beautiful, man. This episode has been quite intriguing actually. I would like to dive deeper to commercial real estate in a later episode, but this episode. So, what would be the key takeaways for the listeners from this episode, Nathan? If you could sum it up.
Yeah, so look, I think key takeaways of this. Once you've dabbled in the residential property investing space, maybe one or two investment properties, or even before that, but ideally you want to start to build up somewhat of a balance. You have the residential properties that are easy to get into, and they'll always be there. But if you want to start making real money, you need to move into the commercial space, and that's where you can kind of give me a call, and I should be able to help you out.
There you go, guys. So if you're thinking about investing in commercial property, you need the right financial advice and the right strategies. You need TFS. You need Nathan.
That's right.
Yeah, so you know where to find him. Just call our TFS hotline and ask for the guy with the deep accent.
Yeah.
If you can't remember his name.
That's me.
Awesome. Hey, listen, Nathan, thanks for joining me on this episode. Guys, you'll see more of Nathan in later episodes. So with that being said, thank you for tuning into today's episode of the TFS Wealth Cast, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Adios.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the TFS podcast, where we turn knowledge into action and big goals into real results. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this episode with someone working towards their next financial step. Now, with that being said, until next time, keep building.